I'm a firm believer in the ARB. I think they're doing a great job in terms of keeping the character and the appearance of this town. Some of their guidelines or restrictions sometimes seem outlandish to the average person who's starting to get involved in them, but they certainly, I think, are diligent in what they do, and they're not doing anything in terms of harming our architecture. And they work pretty well with the council existing. And I think as long as that continues, we'll find a middle ground that works for everybody, the business owners and the residents.
I think it's kind of good to have them. If we didn't have that, having somebody to have the most obnoxious house in Milford Borough and just wouldn't fit. It's also common sense. If we're going to have a sign, for instance, and it's painted and it can last, 5 years, or the vinyl that looks identical and you can't tell it's vinyl, and that's going to last you 20 years. Now that business owner, at a cost, now that business owner doesn't have to pay for every 5 years to get his sign redone. Now he can keep the money in his pocket and do it once and keep it for 20 or 30 years. So I think there's a middle ground, and we have to look at some things as far as like what can be done and what cannot be done to keep the cost down for a long term for the business owners and for the residents in Milford Borough, and what's going to last, honestly.
I haven't really thought about this, to be honest with you. When we first got our business here and we had to do our signs and things like that, we had to go through all the jumps and hurdles, and we just did it. I mean, it's a pain, don't get me wrong. But I mean, as Milford, we want to keep it as beautiful as possible, and that's what we do. And we understand why they do that and why we do it. But as for architectural stuff, again, it's not something that I think the council has to deal with that much. I mean, of course, the new courthouse is here and it's already here. There's nothing we're going to be able to do about that. I don't know how we're going to make it pretty. It is pretty much an eyesore, but it is what it is. And I don't think that's something for us really to deal with right now.
Going forward, in Milford, I think you'd be talking about ripping down the building to build something else, whether it's functional or not. And that, almost anything you would rip down in the commercial industrial section of the town would affect the historical image. So I don't think it will be that big an issue, because I think partly the art protects us enough that we're not going to be doing it. And it would become a major issue, I think, if somebody wanted to rip down one of the buildings. I mean, there are a few buildings here that we probably would not be upset. And I'd be delighted if we could do something with the tire store, but in general, I don't think, I don't think it will be a major issue for that reason, that we don't have any land. It's one of the problems with raising money. We have no free land for buildings. We have no land that is buildable in the town. So, if you look at the other townships in the Pike County, they're growing, so they get more people. And we have, there's very little though, not enough to make a real deal. Anyway.
Okay, lightning round. Sandwich boards, yay or nay? Frank, you go first.
Yay, if they look proper. So I was happy that we sort of found the middle ground. I like them. I think they're neat in a town like this with the historical nature. Being the right size and the right texture, I also agree with. So I'm yay.
Yay.
I'm a yay, but I don't care what they look like. You can make them look any way you want. The size-wise is fine.
Yeah.
Yay.
I'm a yay, I'm all for them.
I'm a yay as long as they're brought in at night, and I think that we should incent the business owners to make them more attractive, make them more charming. You go to a lot of cities and they're very clever, they're interesting, and I think there are things we can do to encourage that and also connect that with the success of the business.
Nick, yay or nay?
I'm a yay, as long as everybody follows the proper procedures, not out in the middle of the sidewalk where baby strollers have to go around and handicapped need to go out in the grass. Obviously that's not a good thing, but other than that, yeah, I'm a yay.
So last set of questions, also lightning round, and I'll give you a little bit of time to think. What 3 words would you use to describe yourself to voters? 3 words. Kim, how do you feel about going first?
That's fine. Passionate, driven, and that was 2. And I'm accessible.
Frank?
Independent, solution orientated.
Say again?
Independent, solution orientated.
Nick?
I would say honest, hard worker, and tend to listen.
John?
Sincere, conscientious, and accessible.
Patient, devoted, and willing.
Determined, honest, and patient.
Terrific. Thank you very much, everybody. It was